I despise uncertainty. Over the course of this endeavor, playing my role as director of the initiative and the various outlet groups that we manage, projects and campaigns and such, I've grown quite used to and fond of having a plot kind of mapped out in advance so that I can be suitably prepared for what potentialities are most likely to occur in the future for a certain span. However, from time to time, something will pop in that I did not expect to happen or did not see coming, and sometimes the slightest mistake can cause for just everything to shut down indefinitely, which is what has happened here. If you're on the teams, you know, any of the teams, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. I don't have to spell it out for you, and I don't care to spell it out for everybody in the public, but, you know, long story short, I fucked up, made a mistake that sent me back one day, but in that day, many things would have been taken care of that would have prepared me for the future for a long while. I was kind of running on the edge at that point, and I was playing a very tricky game. I was gambling with my life and my resources and whatnot. I was cut off short on everything. I'm not working for another week, which means I won't have money until then, unless I could have acquired it the day in question that I missed. So everything's just uncertain now, and I despise that. Because of this, our new course that I'm going to be doing, that is actually going to be a very profitable course for everybody. It's going to be super fun too. I'm highly looking forward to doing it, but I have to postpone that. I in fact had to erase the pieces of it that I already made because we're going to be working with new tech. In fact, I'm going to be playing around with the new tech here, likely momentarily, see if I can't splice some videos together, but hopefully that'll work out. But also, you know, there are various other facets to it that can be utilized that I'm probably going to need some guidance on. But of course I can't get to the people I need to get to in order to accomplish that, because I'm stuck now here for I don't know how long. I think I may have found a solution happening tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning. However, it's uncertain. It's all uncertain. Everything is uncertain. I usually have I can see what's going to be happening in the future. I can prepare for it. Now I screwed up at just the right time too, where I had nothing, no backup to rely on, as I was really running on the edge and I just kind of fell off. But that brings us to this video, and this video is going to be a part of the Approaching Nowhere course, as it is a personal story regarding expeditions into the psychedelic arena and relating insights gleaned from said experiences. But it'll likely present as its own kind of thing, as I'll be presenting further installments of this indefinitely. That is, unless I've managed to fuck up bad enough here to cause for me to never be able to do this again. But this is, on one hand, it's a sort of an example as to what we're hoping to achieve with the Approaching Nowhere course, what we're asking you to present for us. Anybody who's watching, anybody who has a fucking camera on their phone can go ahead and do this, post it up to YouTube, connect it here to the course, and we have your story. So I'm going to give you an example of what kind of stories we are in fact looking for here. And on the other hand, it's kind of a window into myself, obviously, and my own practices. What sort of things that I should like to think people would be, at least people that are following along with us, should be interested in, in doing. I am so beat up though right now, I've got to tell you. I apologize for my general demeanor here, but when I do this particular something, it really beats me up, and it's difficult to recover from it. This is a practice that I personally do once a month. That is, first, I should like to note that throughout in the process of inducting, or in the process of conducting this particular research, I suppose you could say, I do make use of various alchemical agents and such that allow for me to kind of enhance, you could say, the effects of medications that I'm in fact prescribed by my doctor, by my therapist. She's not really a therapist. She's not really a psychoanalyst or a psychiatrist. I think she's just a nurse practitioner at the moment, and she's kind of getting into the field, so we're helping her with that. I'm trying to be helpful to her, but she's the prescriber at the moment who prescribes me these medications, because my actual psychotherapist has retired. And she does in fact check in on the channel. So if you're watching this, madam, I am not misusing or abusing the prescription medications that you have given me. I'm using them as intended. However, I am making use in this particular instance, throughout the course of this particular expedition, one time each month, I am making use of alchemical agents, natural supplements and such, in order to enhance the effects of it and cause for it to kind of go into an overcharge mode, wherein I am afforded the opportunity to maintain alertness for long spans of time. And second, before I go on, I should like to note that this practice, I like to think of it as being a sort of a meditation. This is very highly not recommended for anybody to ever try under any circumstances. If you know me, you know that I'm an extremist. I do some crazy shit to get, to get through the things. If I want to figure things out, if I want to know the truth about reality, I'm going to push myself until I get there, whatever it takes. And this in fact has placed me in life-threatening danger on several occasions, and as I've already stated, it is extremely difficult to recover from. And if you do not have the active manual control of the Kundalini impulse in your energy system, in your electrical system, your nervous system, you will likely have a great degree of difficulty recovering from this at all, if at all. But what I do here for this particular exploration is I deprive myself of certain things, and these certain things are everything, pretty much. I take the meds, I take the alchemical agents, the supplements and herbs and shit. I wait for the effects to kick in, and then I get moving. And what I do, whilst I'm depriving myself of A, sleep, B, food, C, water, D, any kind of input whatsoever. It's a good idea, if you ever do decide, anybody who decides to do this, A, firstly, have preparations in place. Have everything that you might require to instantaneously revert back to your previous cycle and your normal, your normal lifestyle, your average intake for whatever it is that you feel you require or make use of. Have that all ready and immediately available to you. Place yourself in a safe place that you are accustomed to, that is protected, that, if you have to deal with anybody else, make it somebody who you know very well, who's going to, put up with your shit, so to speak, who's not going to freak out and call the police on you if you happen to stumble off into the other world. So there's an other world involved here. This is very real, and anybody who's going to naysay what I'm doing here, as I've already said, it's seemingly somewhat dangerous. I've never been, as I said, I've gotten in trouble. I've gotten to the point where I have been not permanently damaged, but incurred long-term damages from doing this that it took a long while to recuperate from. But it was ultimately gleaned positive effects and was well worth it. The idea here, the general purpose of this, I think I I may have mentioned this before to other people, but the general idea of this practice is that there are pieces of myself, my identity, that for whatever reason, due to traumas in early childhood, due to the drugs that were prescribed to me in early childhood, due to simple social facets, like for example, the primary purpose is to achieve a fusion between the feminine and masculine portions of myself, because coming up as I did, it was not readily accepted by society to have, feminine qualities being a man at all, let alone to, such a great extent as I might have had I, fully accepted everything about myself. I do, as I've said before, I do in fact have a great deal of highly feminine aspects to my personality that, I feel as though I've kind of missed out on. And so what I'm hoping to do is align those, because there is in fact existent in the underlying subconscious of myself, there is, a sort of female version of myself that's locked away because I didn't accept it. I locked it away. I shut it out, and it kind of grew into its own person that's wandering around somewhere in the back of my head, and from time to time she comes out. And when, in certain cases wherein I'm put in a position where my immediate consciousness, my immediate perspective sort of loses control of the body, so to speak, this feminine version will step in and take action, and she's very capable, she's very aggravated, she's a very high stakes player, she's adamant, she's very just kind of stern and strict, and more, even if you think I've been an asshole to you in the past, holy shit, you don't want to meet her. The purpose here is to try and kind of align these personalities together and fuse them together, so that I don't really maintain all of these more negative aspects wherein she is in fact a seriously dangerous person. And I obviously I have protocol. I'm not going to hurt anybody, but she likely will. So as I was saying, if anybody anything that I say here about this, about that, about having alternate personalities, about having fractured pieces of your identity in your psychological system, about engaging these, about exploring this, about in fact engaging an other world of sorts, not even of sorts, it is another world that's been identified. It is in fact another existent. It's pretty much what we would have to call the ether. It's kind of slipping into the ether here. You'll hear throughout the course of this story. But if you think that that's bullshit, or like you disagree with it, or you just think I'm crazy, as I said, this is very highly not recommended. It can be somewhat dangerous. It's real tricky. It's very difficult to accomplish successfully, but if you're one of those like hardcore atheists who doesn't believe any fucking thing that they hear from anybody because it's not valid information if it doesn't come from a scientist, try it. Don't be a fucking pussy. Grow some balls. You're gonna talk shit, walk it. Go fucking try it. And if you do try it, as I was saying, do it in a safe place with safe people with resources available. What we're gonna do here, what I do is just pretty much kind of press myself, and once I get into that state wherein I kind of lean towards that more feminine aspect of myself, I do like to dance a lot, so that's something I do, is dance a lot. But at first, before I do get into that state of mind or state of presence, I'll just kind of commit to maybe habit tasking, like cleaning up around the place or whatever, and as I said, I will deprive myself of any input that I receive. So I have no internet connection at this time. I have no telephone. There's no television. If there is a television, it's being used to play something like a DVD or something that I can play on a loop. What you want to do there, you want to have some kind of stimulating input so that you don't just kind of lose track and fall asleep, because you're going to become aware if you do this after the second or third day of being awake without any rest, food, water, or input of any kind. You are going to become aware of various other aspects of yourself that are in fact functioning that you were heretofore unaware of. until then. There are pieces in your psychological makeup, pieces of yourself, other selves, other people maybe even. There are functions transpiring as we speak that you are entirely unaware of, but you will suddenly realize them, and you'll find yourself engaging in conversations with yourself and such that you just kind of, you'll start having them. It'll be common, it'll be commonplace to you. It's not going to seem like anything is really happening when it does, but as soon as you come out of it, as soon as you snap out of it, you're going to have a kind of holy shit reaction. What the fuck was just happening? Like, what was I just talking about? Who was I talking to? But you will know, in fact, that you were indeed speaking with somebody. And you're doing this all the time. There are so many levels to your psychology that are, that are affecting influences upon you all the time. And in fact, what these influences are or what they may very likely be in most cases at least, is the information that I have in fact recovered from this particular venture, which, as I was saying, has really beat me to shit. And the fact of the matter is that I do not have the resources I require to recover available at all. I have to get out there and get a hold of those myself. I have to acquire the money to do it. My work's been set back, which means I don't have the money for it. I don't have the strength because I'm just beat to shit. But as I was saying, what you want to do is use whatever it is you might use. If you want to overdose on caffeine or whatever you can use to stimulate yourself and get yourself moving and give yourself an energy boost that's lasting, then just as I started saying, I like to play something on a loop. Usually I'll find like a YouTube video of a girl dancing. I like that. That's the sort of thing that I'm into. I like to see attractive girls dancing. It's kind of like a fetish of mine, I suppose you could say. So I'll play a YouTube clip of some girl dancing, and I'll just play that on a loop with the same song, the same pattern, the same thing happening over and over again. You want that repetition to be happening so that your mind doesn't actually fix on any transitive input, so that your mind is left to its own devices. And it's best if it's something that you've probably overplayed so much that you're actually aggravated by it. Something of that sort is what I would recommend. And then, as I said, hit, some kind of menial tasking or anything that works you, really. You want to work yourself hard. You need to really press your body and keep pressing it over the course of the entirety of this venture, which could be up to 5 or 6 to 9 days even, that you're going to be awake alone and without any sort of resources, any sort of input, anything at all. Something to look out for if you intend to do this. It seems that if you don't use the faculties that are responsible for, say, chewing and swallowing food or water for a pretty long while, then when you do use them again, it really hurts a lot. It's tough to eat once you start eating again. It's fucking... Usually, I'm not smoking anymore, but usually it's tough to smoke a cigarette afterwards even. It's really tough once you've actually accomplished the goal here, which the goal is going to be to slip into that ether and to engage separated pieces of your identity, isolated versions of yourself. You could say shattered identities within your psyche. Everybody has these. Everybody. Each and every one of you are a microcosm of the greater whole, which, as we said already, is in fact one identity shattered into us, into humanity. It is a single identity that has fragmented into an entire species. And in fact, and not even an entire species, but an entire world, an entire functioning system, a reality. That's what life is. That's what this dream is. The planet Earth as we know it, and perhaps even the entirety of the universe and existence itself, is in fact one organism fractured and fragmented into an indefinable number of identities. And every single one of us are like a holographic microcosm of that whole. And every single one of us, if even just one, it could be the imaginary friend you had when you're a kid, whomever it is. Everybody has fractured identities in their personality. So this is not uncommon. This is very common. This is average. This is every single person. It would be very, very unique to come across somebody who has in fact achieved a full fusion of their identities and become their ultimate version, which is what I'm trying to accomplish here. For the most part, it's experimental. As I said before, the experiment that I'm conducting now is in fact, involving the fusion of this feminine and masculine versions of myself and becoming, someone that is more capable and perhaps more credible, in the sense that people will take to me more. I mean, this aspect, this feminine version of me, she is very, she may be a dickhead, but she's extremely charming and influential. She's, an attractive person, you could say. I've seen how people react to her before. There have been certain instances where she's gotten loose out in the open and people react to her very studiously. So I'm going to glean that kind of a power in and of myself, and essentially wake up the pieces of myself that have been locked out and fuse them together and see how that works out. That's a portion of the experiment, one small facet of it. However, after doing this practice for several years, in fact, it was actually, I had been doing this practice for many years before, whilst we were creating the initiative. I had begun doing this practice, and this would have been, it wasn't until several years before I actually launched the internet, the internet faction, I guess you could say, of the initiative, this whole internet endeavor. It would have been about two years before I started doing that I became aware of another aspect of this, that, like I said, it had been several years I'd been doing it before then, that I had not been aware of this, that I had no idea this could even happen, let alone would consistently. But I became aware of the greater potential of this practice, which is where you do in fact kind of slip into this other world. And when you do, things will happen that begin to get a little out there, a little crazy. Primarily, you will begin to engage and recall memories that are not your own. You'll begin to incorporate identities that are not what you would consider to be yourself, that are in fact from long before you were ever born. You'll begin to recall memory data regarding experiences that have transpired as early as the creation of time, in fact. Of course, nobody can say where time itself came from or how it came to be. That's an impossible question. And this is because we are existing in a construct, an eternity construct. However, the first time that I experienced this, what I did experience going in was a full-blown recollection of having this was from an outside perspective. I didn't really see this. It's something that you just it becomes an experience you've had. You don't kind of watch it happening, but in a manner of speaking, it's very difficult to explain. You will become aware of it happening, and you can you can visualize it, but it's not like you're actually seeing something. It's more like you're perceiving with senses you didn't know you had. And you just all I can say is it's like having a raw experience, just without the senses of the body that we know of. But the first time that I did this, what I in fact did recall was a memory, an experience of having constructed eternity, of having built it, like manufactured eternity, and having entered it.